Thakur, we get in the Gita that Lord Krishna enthused Arjuna to fight against and destroy his relatives on the opposite side in the battlefield. What was the reason for Lord Krishna to do so and motivate Arjuna to such a task? And what also was the reason given by Lord Krishna that helped Arjuna to shake off all his weakness and rise up for a fight?
As I have already told you, such opponents always exist inside a human body and mind, along with the benign forces, whereby it becomes apparent that two opposite forces inside the beings are generated from a root energy which is beyond normal comprehension. Externally, they appear before us as brothers and friends, and at the same time opponents and enemies. The sight of the opponent forces before him overwhelmed Arjuna, and they were none but parts of his own self. That is why Krishna had to convince him to take up arms against them, so that he could get rid of the evil forces which were in fact elements responsible for his weakness. But Arjuna was absolutely in the grip of grief and sorrow and apprehension, and he lost all control in himself, so much so that his armor, the bow and arrow, and his Gandiva slipped out of his hands. To understand the situation, it is necessary to consider the arrows as the forces of conscience, true knowledge, and righteousness, which were unfortunately beyond the comprehension of Arjuna for the time being. Such confusion in one's mind has been described as signs of evil in the Gita. That is why Lord Krishna motivated Arjuna to recover his senses and take up his arms again to confront the challenge of the opponent forces, because, as explained by Lord Krishna, those were actually forces of assassination around him, although they were part and parcel of his own self. In such a situation, it is absolutely unnecessary to think of the outcome. You are only to do the duties of a captain in the battlefield, regaining your prowess as a captain. That is your duty, and at the same time, your divine responsibility. Krishna also told him that the evil forces would never survive. By any means, they would be destroyed. Shouldn't you too be the instant force to destroy them? So I ask you, get up and forsake all your mental inertia. Take up your arms against the evil force. The strength of true knowledge will provide you with endless courage and skill to destroy the enemy, posing temporarily as invincible.
Your exposition is very good as a thesis, but it is beyond our understanding as to why Lord Krishna, who was then unanimously acknowledged as the perfect person of the time, a divine self, could induce and encourage Arjuna in the murderous violence and warfare. Thakur, will you kindly explain?
In one sense you are right, that the divine self, who was omniscient and perfect in the truest sense, could take recourse to such a decision of energizing Arjuna, who was temporarily the victim of fear and confusion and extreme sorrow, to engage himself in violent warfare like murder and acts of destruction. Although prima facie the instructions of Lord Krishna might seem as encouragement to violent acts, what he actually meant was just the opposite. This I will explain to you as a very dependable process of persuading someone to a covetable job for the achievement of the welfare of mankind. You might have observed that a good teacher will motivate an unwilling child to his lessons with the help of music, dance, sports, drawing, and the like, which would gradually lead to his liking of educational lessons. So also Lord Krishna took recourse to indirect lessons and instructions so that Arjuna might at last come to his senses, being convinced of the unavoidable imperative of the warlike activity, though seemingly violent and reprehensive. But essentially, it was an act in perfection for an all-round benefit of the society, which was the objective of the Kurukshetra war. Inside one's own self, you will find conscience, perception, and a reasoning. All are seated upon a chariot. Arjuna slipped down from his chariot because he got alienated from genuine truth through lack of knowledge. At this, Lord Krishna re-energized him, addressing him like this: "O hero of heroes, my Arjuna, immense power and strength have been invested in you to acquire all coveted resources by trouncing your opponents. Then it is unbecoming for you to be faltering at such triflings. Your opponents are in fact your own relatives, but they are nonetheless your potential assassins." Obviously, Arjuna had lost his mental balance because the evil forces around him were creating such pressure on his mental faculty that the sense of harmony among good and evil elements were lost in him. This state of mind has been interpreted as evil signals by the Gita. A truly useful chariot is always there for resting your conscience, your consciousness, and your power of reasoning. Unfortunately, Arjuna was then lacking in that. So Krishna told him to regain his mental strength and stand up with his Gandiva and fight the powerful enemy with his concentrated effort.
Whatever you are referring as Lord Krishna, his friend Arjuna, Arjuna's armor, etc., all these appear to be theoretical for your argument's sake. On the other hand, we know Krishna as the wisest of all senior preceptors of the time and the supreme master of all our scriptures. So, it is difficult to appreciate how Krishna could inspire and motivate Arjuna to such a murderous warfare and violence instead of a peaceful approach. Will you please explain?
Such question may arise for common people because of their mental deficiencies and lack of in-depth understanding of the relative elements like violence, murder, and assassination in a battlefield, and all such things which have made irresistible impact on Arjuna. If seen in the eyes of a true analyst, it will be observed that such activities, though appear objectionable and improper, are in ultimate analysis meant for the resurrection of the principles of justice and truth. You must have teachers applying different types of exercises, like dance, music, the drawing of pictures, etc., instead of forcing hard tasks on the unruly and inattentive children who are averse to books and formal studies. But the teacher takes them to the desired goal by applying other methods, which apparently look simple as childlike hobbies and games. Similarly, Krishna took recourse to the way around for the benefit of Arjuna, who was, in that particular situation, averse to the use of his arms against the enemy standing around him in the battlefield. In both cases, the end purpose is lofty and noble, but it must be applied indirectly. You may find many instances, actions and reactions in the nature, where good and bad continue to work on parallel lines, but ultimately they meet at a point which is of absolute benefit for both sides. It is merely a difference in the angle of vision, which mislead the viewers so that they feel confused and perplexed, and as a result, truth escapes their understanding and comprehension. The counsel of Krishna to Arjuna can be applied to the wider field and wider situations where there is a conflict between the forces of good and bad, violence and peace, love and hatred, forgiveness and vengeance. Ultimately, the benevolent forces will gain upper hand and help to remove all the forces of malignance in the society. That is the true interpretation of what Lord Krishna told Arjuna to inspire him, so that he could shake off his temporary weakness and regain the strength to fight against the enemy forces. Otherwise, the enemy would jump upon him with all strength to destroy the opposite party, lacking in courage and hesitant in the battlefield.
If your contention of inevitability of violence, murder, etc. in a battle, then why should we not aspire victory by any means as the ultimate objective?
This I have told you on many occasions, and I will repeat in reply to your question. Struggle is a continuous process in all affairs of life, and always there are two opposite sides. If there be the forces favorable, there will also be the forces unfavorable. This is noticed in the kingdom of nature. In our worldly life also, the forces of virtue and forces of mischief are fighting each other for gaining supremacy, and this challenge has to be faced, shaking off cowardliness. Evil forces are always at work inside you. Outwardly, they may appear attractive and alluring to you and try to keep you under their grip. They act more powerfully than the forces of divinity, ready to help you act on the right track. These two opposite elements are competing with each other to keep you under their influence, so that they may utilize your strength and the skill for gaining their own purpose. So we come to the conclusion that one must fight against the evil forces, so that truth and divinity may sustain for universal welfare. That is the ultimate achievement. No personal aspiration or physical gain should be the motive. That is why Lord Krishna tells us in the Gita not to ponder on victory or defeat. You are only to apply your strength for the elimination of the evil forces inside as well as outside. Indecision, inertia, frustration, and the sense of helplessness at the time of battle will result in your own death and destruction. That is why the advice of the Gita is ceaseless effort to fight whatever appears before you as evil and unholy. You should know that the bad instincts are more powerful and more influential than the good instincts. Allurement of apparent gains attract people in general more easily. People are easily attracted by the prospect of instant gain. However bad or undesirable those may be from the point of view of morality. On the other side, the good instincts work at a slower pace, and the result is felt after considerable time. But those gains are sustainable. Taking advantage of the delay in getting the result by adhering to morality, the evil instincts play their game and promptly keep the people under their grip as long as possible. This leads to violence, mutual dispute, and various types of sinful acts. Nevertheless, the conscience and moral feelings inside the man go on working in the natural course and come out with all force and strike against the evil forces which are causing harm and injury to the society. Thus, we should cautiously notice it is absolutely necessary to strengthen and energize all the benign forces latent inside, so that man can find and trace combined evil forces or greed and allurement either in the individuals or the society, and their mental faculty or humanity as such. So this struggle must go on until those evil forces are not only brought under control, but also destroyed and totally uprooted. Such struggle between the two forces may appear superficially, of course, a sort of strife based on violence, but in reality, only such struggle can lead to the emergence of a peaceful situation for the benefit of human society. The essence of the Gita points to such ceaseless fight between the two opposite forces, that is, violence versus tolerance. What we find in our society today, the forces of jealousy, violence, self-interest, exploitation, etc., are on the upper hand and rushing ahead against the morally beneficial forces. Thus the message of the Gita is equally relevant even today, and you must accept that your fight should go on. Otherwise soon you will face a very tragic fate, either death or destruction. Death comes not by physical annihilation only. All types of indiscipline, lawlessness, frustration due to lack of knowledge and education, unequal fights between various forces, all these are indications of death of one's mental faculty, while physically the forces may be apparently found to be working. What I mean is, as in the old days, the asura, that is, the demonic forces, had always tried to subdue the moral forces and enjoy the upper hand, while the wisdom latent in the society always encourage and motivate for facing challenge and fighting against the devil, and then establish a situation of peace and discipline, harmony and mutuality amongst different sections of mankind. That may not be as easy as we say and wish. The situation is comparable to the momentary weakness of Arjuna in the battlefield, who fell a prey to the momentary sense of frustration and aversion to the call of duty of a forefront warrior. Today your duty is to look for your real strength, your duties and obligations towards the cause of virtue and the sustenance of the society. Then only you will be able to make proper use of your knowledge, conscience, power of reasoning, and your intellect for the victory of all that is beneficial for the society and mankind. In the present situation, you have also to keep in mind that good instincts latent in your inner self are also equally strong and powerful compared to all the evil forces. Not only that, the outcome gains achieved through the moral forces are more deep and comparatively more sustainable. These good forces come out of the fight that is constantly going on between the opposite forces and ultimately paves the way for the victory of divinity and morality against the forces of fraud and untruth and all types of immoral activities which are always malignant and harmful. So my advice to you, take up your arms, the Gandiva, that is, the forces of wisdom and morality. Then annihilate and destroy to the very root all the elements of malignancy inimical to the welfare needs of the society. If you fail to do so, and fail to face the challenge, the field will be left open for the forces of evil to take over and fight against you, taking advantage of your aversion. So your duty to fight the unholy elements, all types of vices, and conquer the battle. This will lead you to sanity, transparency, beauty, and permanence. You will have the feeling as if you yourself have assumed the role like that of Lord Krishna, endowed with all power of reviving the forces of divinity by total destruction of the evil forces facing and challenging you ominously. There is no other way to protect yourselves than to continue your fight against the evil instincts inside you. In the region of nature, two forces are in action without rest. Those are evil and the devil. These two forces are in action concurrently and ceaselessly.